I'm Brayden Skinner, class of 24, play center and D tackle at Banning Lewis High School, and you're listening to Playmakers Corner, baby.
Hey everybody, it's Cody Stoffer here with the Playmakers Corner podcast. And in the year 2024, we get to chat it up with some of the best prospects from Colorado in the class of 2024. Be sure to listen to our top 5 seniors by position series, where we have gone through basically every single position on the field and delivered a top 5 on a rubric with a scale of 1 to 10 in 10 different categories, that is. So that gives, a score out of 100. And then we have 5 people that come out on top. And released on January 16th was episode 329, our top 5 class of 2024 interior defensive linemen in Colorado. And I am fortunate enough to be joined by a member of that list. If you would like to introduce yourself, where you're from, where you play football, and the positions you've played, go ahead and kick it off for us.
Hey, I'm Brayden Skinner. Live down here in Colorado Springs. Play football at Banning Lewis Prep Academy. It's first 4 years of this program. Been here, so know a little bit about that program now. Been through it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a program that's been on the rise, and you've been a huge part of that. And we're very excited to talk about that program in just a little bit. But first, we kind of like the audience to relate to the athletes a little bit here. And assuming you, like most athletes, watch sports as well, or have watched or did watch sports growing up and whatnot, we want to know, what's your favorite experience as a fan, your favorite sport viewing experience, whether that was a high school game that you saw when you were younger, if that was a college game, a professional game. And all of these answers could, be football games, or they could not be football games, and they could also be on the television or live. So what's kind of some of your favorite moments, or your favorite moment as a sports fan?
I gotta say, like, my favorite moment, it's gonna be a little bit of a basic answer for a lot of kids that are my age, was the catch by Odell Beckham Jr. when he's on the Giants. It started a feud, man, like that recess football thing. Everyone's trying to one hand that football, and like, man, that just had such an impact on my want to play football as a little kid. And I remember that so vividly. I watched the game with my dad, saw it on the TV live, but man, like, it made me fall in love with the sport. It was beautiful, and I just got a lot of positive memories from that. Loved it.
That game was so wild, and the fact that he did it as a rookie, and even better that he did it against the Cowboys, it's always fun to laugh at the Cowboys' expense. So
Absolutely. As a
yeah,
49ers
no.
fan, I 100% agree with that.
Oh, we got a 49ers fan on the pod.
Oh
Okay,
yeah. Oh
okay.
yeah.
I see you. So you must be, by the way, this recording is taking place January 18th. So y'all got a big game ahead of you this weekend. Not sure when this episode will
Uh,
be released, but you know, we'll see how this sits over time, whether it ages like
hope,
fine wine or ages like milk.
hopefully we could take care of business against Green Bay. We've been preparing since the second half of the Cowboys game, so we should be ready.
Yeah, man, maybe even since the first quarter, who knows? But yeah, no, that there's some good experiences all tied in there. And, that's interesting that you talk about, Odell Beckham and whatnot, just seeing that, he's a receiver, and the path that you took, was
Yeah.
down in the trenches. And with that in mind, is there any player, whether it's growing up or over the past few years, that you've kind of modeled your game after? And this could be a player, or it could be multiple players that you've kind of pulled from to create the beast that is Skinner.
Yeah, man. I think defensively on like that side of the ball, I really loved watching Aaron Donald. Like, even as like a 49ers fan and him being on the Rams or whatever, like I still love watching him play, watching his game. Was watching the Detroit and LA game just a couple days ago, and it's it's just so fun to watch that guy go to work, man. He's such a skilled guy, and you can see how many hours he puts in, and he wants to be everywhere. But on the opposite side of that is on the offensive side of the ball, especially playing center the past couple of years. A guy like Jason Kelsey is just somebody you got to look up to and somebody you got to watch. Like, he's just powerful, even though he's a little undersized, which, my frame nowadays, at least, being like 6'2", just a little over 300 pounds, that's considered undersized. So you watch him play and you see him toss around these big guys. They're all 6'5", 300 plus like that. And it's a beauty to watch, man.
And really fun both on and off the field as well. So that definitely helps out as well. And, arguably the centerpiece to the tush push. So shout out Jason Kelsey and Aaron Donald. I mean, he been a dog. So those are definitely two awesome players to model your game after for sure. And, speaking of your game, we did have a chance to evaluate your game here. And we talked a little bit before the show. You had a chance to listen to it. And I just want to give you a chance to kind of react to it, some things that you agreed with, if there was anything that you didn't agree with, or if there's any context that you're trying to provide as well. We think that this is just a great opportunity for, not a one-sided conversation, because the one-sided conversation is the episode itself. But if there's any context to plug in, or if you agree with us 100%, that's cool too. But we're not holding you to that expectation.
Oh yeah, no, I enjoyed listening to it. There's definitely some parts that were spot on and accurate, and I totally agree with. Like my frame and stuff like that. Like, totally, like, you put it in perspective for me listening to it a little bit, because it's not something I really think about. I'm not recruiting myself. Like, I just play ball, and listen to him like talking about in depth and like how the height affects things nowadays, and how all these pieces are moving around and guys are getting bigger, and like 6'5" starting to become the new 6'2", stuff like that. It definitely opened my eyes a little bit. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, it is a little bit of becoming like an undersized build, even for like some of these D2 schools and stuff like that. And then, all the other aspects like strength, spot on. I think, like, that's probably the strongest thing I got is how big I am and how physical I am and how I'm able to move people around, things like that. And then when it comes to like agility and stamina and stuff like that, it's definitely my lowest point. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some like super freak athlete that can run like a sub 540 right now at 300 pounds, but definitely playing in those games, going both ways, man, that takes a toll on my body, dude. Like, going into games, it's tough to be agile the whole time whenever, you're trying to go from getting a bunch of turnovers, which we did incredibly good at this season, and then once you get turnover, you kind of have to go right back out there on offense. So it becomes difficult to, be at like my peak athleticism when the biggest break I get is a kickoff.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note as well, because, I mean, I'll be honest, a lot of the guys that make these lists are around 4A or 5A, pending. Obviously a handful of 1, 2, and 3A guys, but, it's just the pool of players, obviously, I think has more to do with it than anything. Absolutely. Because skill doesn't matter to classification. You've heard us probably talk about that a lot. Yeah. But, that's something that a lot of 5A players definitely don't really have to deal with. I mean, this list was a little different. You had some guys who went both ways, but it's definitely way more common on the 1A level.
Especially when, you got with our team, just a little bit of a fun fact. We had like 22 guys at some points of the season, had like 5 linemen. So it's like, injury or not, you're going to have to play, dude. Like, it's not like a take you off in an ambulance kind of thing. It's you tough it out, dog. But, I think that's what brings the best out of our team, and why we're so successful is because the guys who were committed and stuck around were the ones who wanted to play, and the ones who were ready to sacrifice everything for it.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that with the team, and it's definitely something to keep in mind for sure when evaluating. And this is exactly why we have that context section. So, but I want to kind of pass the mic to you. I know that that's the whole point of this interview, but I want to hear, you said that you don't really scout, you play ball, but I'm going to force you to scout yourself a little bit here and say, what are 2 to 3 qualities or abilities that, in your opinion, separate you from other interior lineman in the state or even in the country?
I think the things that point out the most, like number one, I think my IQ, especially as I've gone through high school, like playing since like a freshman, you get put in a lot of situations where I'm gonna have to think for myself, and like it's not a do the decision the coach made. It's you're gonna have to make a decision here. Like this is you've been trusted with this power to direct the offense, and you're supposed to see everything and adjust everything and make calls, and that's kind of the ability they bestowed upon me. And so my IQ is definitely a lot higher than some of the high school guys who just don't have to do that as much, where their stuff's more organized and it's like the QB will check something, or they just have a set play that they're going to run and there's nothing they have to look out for. Especially playing center, I got to make checks, I got to see where everyone's lined up if they switch fronts, and so my IQ is definitely something that I appreciate, and like my knowledge of what I got to do and fundamentals and stuff like that. Second most appreciated quality I have is probably my strength and my size. I'll put those two together. Just being that like playing like around 315 all season, like you're not going to go up against many guys, especially at the 1A level, who are even close to that. Like a couple of guys, some of those Wiggins guys were up there like 270s, I think, maybe even a little lighter than that. But being up there in that like 315 range and having good lifting numbers and being on that grind in the off season just really sets you above those people who aren't gonna be as committed as I was with all that. Because being 315 and playing through a season is rough on the body. It's hard to go through, but I think that definitely sets me apart from people, because not everyone's willing to put in as much work and grind through having to be as heavy and still be agile and play 4 quarters of football both ways. But those two are really I think what sets me apart from other people.
Yeah, and when you bring this up, you also got to talk about the gas tank a little bit here too. Like
Yeah.
You said, both ways. And I mean, you're driving a diesel here, but that's your strengths for sure. And what's funny is I'm watching your film, and Simon and I talked about it a little bit on the pod as well. Like back in the 2000s, this is a Vince Wilfork, like big impact, 3 down kind of guy. And this was the frame. This was the archetype. And, the game has evolved. So I'm glad that you got something out of it, because when Simon pointed that out, I was like, yeah, because, oddly enough, you have the highest frame score, or tied for the highest frame score, because you are operating at 300 plus.
Yeah.
So, that's obviously a good thing. And the more that you can work with it as well, because, it's still going to change. You still have like a couple of years of the body changing regardless. So, ideally, it just becomes easier to work with as the season goes on. And, depending on what happens next, yada, 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 fill in the details. There's a way to optimize it for sure. So, and I am excited to talk about that. But first, we're going to talk about this season here. And I'm going to just ask you, as an individual, were there any particular matchups that kind of stick out more than others, whether that was a unit of an opposing team or whether that was a specific player that kind of pushed you and challenged you and made the game fun?
Early regular season, the matchup that I was looking forward to, because it was a bit of a revenge game for us, was Yuma. We got blown out by like 40 points last time we played them. It was rough. There's a lot of stuff going into that game too. And so going into this, I was out for blood. I was ready to do whatever it took to win this game. And I remember going through game planning, the Monday of that week or whatever, watch film and go through players and get our scouting packets and everything. All the coaches are coming up to me, bringing up 77, I believe was his number. Can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they're like, hey, this kid's a dog. He's their center. He's going to be their nose or, interior D-line guy. He's going to be who you're on. You're by yourself. Like if he goes head up, he's yours on offense, and we're going to put you interior on defense, and you're going to go at him. You're going to wear him down. Like if you get rid of this kid, then they got nobody blocking for him. I was like, took that as a big challenge. And, some of the coaches were talking about adjusting things and adjusting that. And they're like, well, do you want to bring the guard down, give you help or anything like that? And I was like, just give them to me, man. Let me work. Let me prove myself. I haven't had a great matchup in high school yet where it's just me and this guy going at it. And so that definitely was something I was very excited to get to. And I remember game day, like watching, walk around like pregame. I'm like, I'm trying to observe him, get a feel for what this guy's like. I'm trying to watch him in pregame, see what he does, see like the little tendencies he has when he's blocking and stuff like that. And like I felt it. I felt it in my blood. I was like, I'm gonna run this kid over today. And he gave me a fight while we were out there. But at the end of the day, the results are what it is. I got plenty of highlights from that game, taking him down, tossing him around. And even though we had struggled scoring on offense that game, we still beat him 14-0. Couldn't block us on offense and couldn't keep me blocked on defense. So, yeah, no, that was probably my favorite regular season matchup just because the emotions and stuff behind it from previous years.
That definitely builds into it. And just the fact that entire week, that was the focus too. And
yeah, man.
You sizing him up during warmups and stuff like that. That's a killer mentality. That's giving me that Mamba kind of vibes right there. It's like, all right,
gotta compete, baby.
What's this dude really like? Is he for real? And I want to say it started with a C, like Carson or something like that.
I think that was it. I remember talking to some of the Yuma parents after, having a little bit of conversation, like going into the locker room, like so everyone's saying good job and everything. And I was like, yeah, 77 gave me the work. Like, tell him I said what's up, and he had a great game. Like, yeah, trying to spread a little bit of positivity. We're not all hate. It's just the game,
Yeah, and I think that's something that's kind of unique to 1A in that regard is, especially the good teams, you have a really high chance of seeing them again in the postseason.
Yeah.
So no need to add extra fire there. They added spark for y'all heading into this matchup. So no need to stoke it right back.
No, it was a great matchup, and I enjoyed that game. I remember that game. That was probably my favorite regular season one. But if you want to get into, I could do my favorite playoff one too, if you want to do that.
Yeah, go for it. Why not? Send it.
All right, we'll do that one too. It's obviously not Lyman. We lost pretty bad to them. That was not a fun game, but Wiggins was a very, very fun, competitive game. Like I knew a couple of their linemen from football camps doing college stuff like that, and then Americo, I know him from track, so we were somewhat friends or acquaintances. Before, so I knew him coming in. I was like, oh, he gets to play America. Like I've seen this kid all the time. Like I'm always talking to him in track. He's pretty damn good. So I'm ready to compete against this dude. Like I wanna just go out there and punch him in the face, show him what I'm about. Like all the fun, friendly stuff can happen after the game. I'm ready to go. I remember because this is our second home game at our turf field, so we're still getting used to like walking out of our own locker rooms and like being at a field that we're familiar with. And seeing them just standing in our gym just pissed me off. Like they weren't doing anything wrong. It's just trying to protect that home field, And then I remember walking into the locker room like after getting taped or whatever I was doing inside, and like America was just staring me down, giving me that death stare. And I was like, ooh, it's gonna be a good game between us, baby. Some big dog matchup right here. And then going out for games, there's a little bit of a trash talk before the game. Between coaches and stuff like that, and some of the parents and whatever was going on. I was trying to get locked in on the game, but you could definitely tell people weren't happy with each other. So there's a little bit of fire going in when we came back out for that kickoff, man, and just going out there and playing a hard physical game against a hard physical team and coming away with a 21-2 victory where the only points they scored was our long snapper snapping it into the end zone. Feels pretty damn good.
Yeah, that game, I remember seeing the matchup on the bracket and just thinking, hey, that's going to be a pretty good matchup. And Americo, he's somebody who we got to watch for a few years, honestly. And, I mean, look, the score speaks for itself, and
yeah, man.
Y'all took care of business and made history as well, if I'm not mistaken.
first playoff win, first playoff win with a shutout technically, defensively on that, not special teams wise, but no, and it felt great to do that on our own field this year, man. Like real proud of what we were able to do. Real happy that we were able to get that field in time. I know we played CSCS there previously, but man, that felt like the first real competitive game we had on that field, and where you're just going at it, man. Beautiful.
Yeah, and all in all, this season was special. I mean,
Yeah.
An undefeated regular season, first playoff win in school history, first league title in school history.
Yep.
I mean, what was kind of the expectations for y'all heading into the season? And then if you want to just take me kind of through the season, just what it was like kind of week to week. You don't have to specify every single game, but I know that, I want to say Coach V did y'all's season preview, and he attended a few games last year as well, as in your junior year. Yeah. And all the talent was there. We were just wondering, is this going to be the year that they take the step? And I mean, speak for yourselves. I'd say that you guys did.
No, definitely. Like going into the season, like I remember we were going through like 7-on-7s, like midsummer. We're just playing locally, like going to all like other high schools. And, we have a bunch of these kids that like, they don't seem like they want to be on the field with us, like this going through this whole off season. Like, I don't know if these kids really want to even play football. And I was talking to our coaches about it, and like, I don't know, we'll see who whittles out during fall camp and everything. And so going through summer was a grind, man. I know some of those guys are playing basketball too, and like just everyone's in that weight room grinding. It was high energy every day, whether we had like OTAs or we were in the weight room. Everyone was it just felt like we wanted to compete. Like we were tired of being, like a 5.0, like our 0.5 win average team. We wanted to take something and make it ours, like take that league first and then go playoffs and take care of business. And you could feel it even in that preseason. And going into fall camp, man, like everyone had this like physicality, and I went in fall camp with an injury, so I missed most of it. I ended up like messing up my foot at a football camp, so I didn't even get through fall camp. So it took me a minute to get in shape as soon as the season started. And then watching those guys, even without me, going through scrimmages, like we played, who was it? I think we played Falcon in a scrimmage, Falcon and Sierra, and shut both of the teams out. Like it's a scrimmage, but nobody scored on us. We're missing me on offensive and defensive line. So we got like one of our smaller guys in there, one of our younger guys, and just seeing everybody's like wants to compete. Everyone was hitting people hard, man. Like there was good contact. We felt so much smarter and more mature as a team. Like, and once we get through like fall camp, like we lost like some of the water weight of like the kids that didn't want to play and were just kind of like there to be there. And when you get that good solid group of guys who's really invested in what we're doing, it's just, you can feel it. You can feel that something special's happening. And so, get into week one and everything, man. Like I just remember being so excited for season start. I was like, I'm tired of these damn scrimmages and everything. I was like, I just want to get to the point where I can compete and I can put it on a schedule and be like, here we go. We're 1-0 this week. Let's get to next week and be 1-0 again. And so first week we played, who did we play first week actually?
I mean, y'all slaughtered them. I got it in front of me. It was Denver Christian.
Denver Christian. You're right. I remember because going into it, like we played them the year previous, like every other team on our schedule, and I was like, all right, this team was a little bit dangerous last year. They lacked linemen, but they had some good tall athletes. Their quarterback was pretty decent. Like we're gonna have to take them seriously, I was like, let's just get in there and take care of business and leave. Like this, let's not leave anything up for chance. Like we can't lose ourselves in these games, like these not so big games. These games we're the favorite to win by a lot. Like we can't just let that be. Like we got to go out there and prove and earn that. And going into that one, I was like, let's get through week one, guys, and then we can worry about week two when week two comes. And obviously we go in and we dominate Denver Christian. Had a good game. It was a good start to the season, but so much we could improve on. Like I think our special teams was probably what we did best on that week. Like, and our offense had struggled in spots. Our defense had a pretty decent game, but definitely not our best and definitely not our fullest potential. And like I remember talking to coaching staff when we got back to practice on Monday the next week. I was like, man, we could be so much better. Like, look what we do when we played mediocre. Like, imagine us whenever we're playing at like full potential. And I think that's really what this regular season was about. It was about peaking at the end, like where we get to those Wiggins games and stuff in the playoffs, where it's like we want to be playing our best football then. We don't want to be playing our best football against, the teams that might not be as competitive for us. And so going through the first couple weeks, we go through Jefferson. That was just like a light game. They just didn't have a lot of guys, honestly, but respectful team, good guys. And then you get to like the Yuma game and stuff like that, where that's when the season felt real. Like we were actually going up against somebody that like we didn't know what the outcome of this game was going to be. Like we'd been projected to win, but projections don't mean nothing until you put it into reality. So getting in there and just I could feel us like taking over, like especially on the offense and defensive line, man. Like I feel like everyone's getting all riled up and everyone's getting like chippy, and not in a bad way, not in like a unsportsmanlike way, but like man, this is ours. Let's take it. Let's prove that this is ours, and no one can take that away from us. I was like, let's go, man. Like this mentality is going to take us somewhere special. And then going through a couple weeks, like getting into league and everything, like I think our biggest struggle, we went into the Peyton game with 5 linemen total, offense and defense. It's same 5 guys on both sides of the ball. And one of our players was ineligible, one was hurt, and we ended up having to put in like one of our like sophomore tight ends. It's not a very big kid at all. Like he's small for a skill guy, much less a lineman. But just having those guys that are undersized in there, just being dogs and fighting with them, and as a leader, it's a real special thing to see. Like whenever you're trying to encourage these kids to take another level, take another step in the game, and watching them do that mid game and just seeing them help the team in that way, like even though that's probably not the position they want to be in, it's a really cool thing to see. So getting through that pain game is a rough physical game, which it always is with those guys, because it's a good little rivalry there. But it was really cool to see everyone come together and fight till the end with that one. Going through league a little bit, we had the 2 big teams that we were concerned about in league that we didn't know what was going to happen in those games. Like, hey, we got to take these weeks super seriously. We got to take every week seriously, obviously, but these weeks there can't be no messing around. It can't be nothing getting in our way. No eligibility stuff with some of our guys. Like, we don't need to cause problems for ourselves to like make everything more difficult. And so going in, CSCS is probably the game that I was most excited for, just because it's that in-town rivalry you got there. Like, and I know a lot of the CSCS guys play them in basketball. It's chippy during basketball. We play them, we go against them in track and everything like that. So I know these guys like the back of my hand. Like going into this game, like we just got to be more physical than them. We're gonna take this game away, no problem. So going through practice that week, I know it felt like everyone was just locked in. Like some weeks previous to that against teams were like guys think we're just going to roll over people, which we do, but you got to take it a little bit more seriously. I'm like, come on guys, like if we're not taking practice seriously whenever we're playing against teams that are not highly ranked or not as stacked of rosters, anything like that, like if you don't take those practices seriously, we're not going to take practices seriously when you get to big game weeks. And it felt like that message finally came through when we got to that CSCS week, and everybody was locked into practice. Everyone's excited because that was the first game we were going to get to play on our new turf. And we hadn't gotten to we had gotten to practice for a couple of days before that because we had a bye week before them, and we had to practice on a different field during the bye week. And finally we get out to that turf field just a couple of days before the CSCS game. And I just felt special. It felt like something you got to protect. You can't just let somebody come in and take your home field away on your first game when you're having a great season. And so getting to that game, I remember the morning of, I got there a little bit early so I could get in my locker room and stuff and, feel out the field. And I know they're doing like an opening ceremony, and there's like CSCS players out there. Like they're not supposed to be there for another like 2 hours. And they're all like scoping out our field and scoping out like some of our football players. Like I was like, oh, they want something. They want to come here and take this from us. They're already out here trying to get ready and get prepared to like fight us tonight. And added a little bit more fire going into that game. Warm-ups felt so quick. Kickoff felt like it came so fast, and all of a sudden, I'm in my first game on that new turf, and I just felt something in our guys just come over them, and like everyone's on a whole nother level. Everyone's running faster, hitting harder, being more physical. We got to that QB quite a bit that game, and it felt really good to just put pressure on everybody instead of having pressure put on us, and being able to take away everything they're doing. I remember I talked to Will Moore after the game, their running back, and a couple of our guys know him from church and stuff like that. And, he was like, man, you guys he's like, it pissed me off because every time I ran the ball, you were right there tackling me. I was like, I know, man, but it's all in fun competition, baby. Like, appreciate y'all coming out here and, competing with us. And, that was just a really special game to go out there and dominate. And then going through the senior night. So I was going through all my senior night stuff afterwards. So it was really emotional being with my parents and all my friends and whatnot that are seniors. And it was a really beautiful night to go through all that. Then we go through the next couple weeks. We got Rye, and I think against Rye, our defensive coordinator had something come up. Like I think his dog was in like the Olympics for dogs, but it was like the world championship. So it was like this whole big deal, and he was going to be gone that week. And we had known all season that was coming, but like when you don't have your defensive coordinator who's led you through like however many shutouts throughout the season, and stopping teams for negative yards in some games, and it's a little scary whenever he goes away for a game and you're like, oh, let's see how this one plays out. But our D-line coach took over the defense that game and play calling and everything, and really close to that guy. Love him so much. He's helped me a lot. But he took over the defense, play calling, everything. And a lot of that stuff was entrusted to me too. A lot of checks, a lot of calls on defense, going into Rye. And I knew that Dylan Hearn's a good big running back, man. Like, we got to stop this guy in defense. Like, offensively, I think we can do whatever we need to. I'm not worried about that. Our game plan is solid. We're ready to compete, but we gotta take care of them on the offensive side, us playing defense against them. And it felt great, man, being able to go out there and just dominate. Like, it was their senior night, so we had a little chip on our shoulder. Like, hey, let's take this away from them. They took league from us last year. Let's take away their senior night. Like, they don't get this over us. And I remember going back and forth. Like, I was getting some good hits on defense. Breaking through, doing some TFLs. And then there's one play where Dylan Hearn came up. He's like a little quarterback bootleg, little pass, run out pass, and he's blocking out there for him. And I'm going for the quarterback. I don't even notice some of my peripherals and just drive straight through my chest, man. I'm like, that's a powerful running back right there. So ended up on my ass, and damn, on my butt. I apologize, but really just.
That's what the bleep button's for. So you're good.
Appreciate it, but once he hit me, man, I was like, ooh. It ticks me off. Like, nobody's ever put me on my butt before. Maybe as a defensive lineman, I probably got pushed over at some point. Like, it happens. I played since I was a freshman. I wasn't 315 pounds as a freshman. So, but he knocked me on. He knocked me on my butt. Like, I fell down and it pissed me off. So the rest of that game, I was going after him, man. I was giving little hits, all within the realms of the game. I'm not doing anything cheap. I don't want to encourage things like that. But just every time I could get a good little hit on him, man, I was going after him, dude. And then nothing against him on this part, but he just at that end of the game, him going out of the game, quitting pretty much just because he's getting hit so much, and on their senior night and we're up by 40 or wherever we were at by at that point, like it felt good to know that we shut them down physically, mentally, in all aspects of the game. Like we were the more dominant team throughout. And yeah, and we play Ellicott last game of the season. The biggest thing I remember from that one was just how cold it was. Like, yeah, freezing. And their quarterback was an athlete, man. Like coming out of the locker room was already freezing cold, man. I'm like, my knee brace was all like locking up weird and stuff, and just getting beat up through the season. And I was just going through all these little things that I was getting all wrapped up in. I was like, and then they start they start running the ball, and it's like they start driving down the field. I'm like, hey, like we got to pick this up. Like we're playing lazy, we're playing cold, we're playing down. And a lot of our guys responded really well to that, especially like linebackers and safeties, like coming down and helping, because their quarterback and number 2, I think, or whoever their small running back was quick, man, like just running all over us, making cuts. And I was like, let's do our best to shut this down, man. Like this is a team that, if we lose to them, like it tarnishes our season. Like we're not going to miss playoffs because of this, but why lose now? Why lose to a team that lost all the guys we won against? Like, let's go take care of business. Like, stop letting them mess around and stick in this game with us. And just, then everyone's locking in and start stopping them, start scoring the ball more. Yeah, it was a great way to end the regular season. Like, just having a competitive win over a team that really did everything they could to take it away from us, because they got nothing to lose at that point. Might as well just do everything they can to take it away from us. But coming away with that win was a real nice, and then find out that we're playing. We look at our playoff bracket, and obviously everybody wants to go through and make their predictions as we see the bracket, and who we play first round and who we think will play second round and how far we think we'll go. And whenever you get your playoff bracket being sitting at like a 8 seed or whatever we were, and then you look and you say, okay, we got Wiggins. That's gonna be a good competitive game. Like they're a great program. I can't wait to play them. And then you look next and you're like, oh damn, Lyman's probably going to be our second round. That's a team that you do not want to see early in the playoffs, just because of how dominant they are and how big of a team they got for the amount of guys that go to that school, man, and how many guys are so committed there to what they're doing. And so, everyone seemed to be focused a lot on Lyman, like the beginning of the week going into the Wiggins game. And I was like, guys, we gotta lock in and take care of Wiggins first, so we're not even gonna get to see Lyman. All right, like get to that Wiggins game, man. And everybody flipped the switch. I went over a little bit earlier, but like everyone was just flying around, making contact. They're being physical, and we're just being even more physical right back at them. And finishing that game it felt great. Like letting that kind of marinate with us, like winning that first playoff game, being where we are, and making it to that next step. But that fades quickly whenever you get to that lineman week, and like that week of preparation, man. Like our head coach touches on it all the time. It's his favorite thing to say is like, you're gonna win the game before you ever play it with your preparation. And it's like some guys don't believe that, some guys don't buy into that, but against Lyman, that's what it was, man. Like they definitely prepared better throughout that week. Like our guys were distracted, our guys were worried about them because it's Lyman. Our guys are thinking too much and they're not focused, and grades are slipping and everything. Come on, like we gotta lock in, guys. We get to that game, and a lot of our guys are just kind of iffy about everything. They're like, it's hot outside, like we're gonna have to play this team that's really good, and we're worried about them. Like there should be nothing to worry about as long as we prepared right and we go into this game and we play what we play, man. Like we've been playing our ball all year and we've been dominant. We just got to do that again. And man, those guys are physical, and there's a lot of them for a 1A football team. There's a lot of backups, which is something I'm very jealous of. Like playing against the guy, and you and him are going at it, and then he starts slowing down, but then they sub somebody in for him, and you're like, well, I got nobody to sub out for. So it's just it's hard to play ball like that when you only have 22 guys, like, and 5 linemen total due to injuries and people quitting and grades and everything like that. it's tough to play against a amazing football team like that. Like, but doing everything you can. I remember being so exhausted. I got like hit in the stomach somehow. Like some dude's shoulder pad like came right into my stomach on a hit, and like throughout the whole halftime, man, like I was like trying to breathe through it. Like felt like coming like a Charlie horse in my like abdomen. I was like, damn, like it's hard to breathe right now. Like I was like, we got a whole second half and we're down. Like we got to come back. We got to do something. We got to make big plays. And all I remember is coming out in that second half and like on defense, I felt like I had to take over. Like I was getting tackles, I was getting TFLs, I was stuffing them up in their run game. But with a team like that, if I take away the run game and I'm starting to get tired because I'm like, damn, we just went 4 hard plays where I had to go against another guy my size and take down a running back that's real good and not easy to tackle. And then you get on like they drop back in a pass set and you're like trying to get to the quarterback and I gave him too much time in my opinion. I take complete fault for that, but then they start getting these big pass plays over the top of our safeties. I'm like, yeah, man, it's hard whenever they just find something that you can't stop and just keep hitting it. Like the receivers and their running backs that were out there and like slots and stuff like that were just so much faster than we anticipated, and it's a big reason why they won. Like they're just able to out athlete us in most ways, but everyone was super respectful, and those guys were great competition, and I'd play them again anytime. Like really appreciate how they played in their style of play. It was chippy, but it wasn't dirty. It was what football's supposed to be. And after the game, I was talking to a couple of their linemen. They're like, man, like y'all, you were killing us on defense. Like I was like, they're like, I don't know how we won by so much. I was like, it's because you guys have weapons everywhere. It's like I can't. My defense can't stop. Your entire team of athletes. Like it's hard to shut down that many parts of the game. But no, it was good. If we're gonna lose to anybody, it's good to lose to the eventual state champions. So, but that's pretty much the whole season right there, from start to finish. And yeah, it was a great season, man. A lot of memorable points, and a lot of adversity with making sure guys were healthy and stuff like that, especially in our linebacker core. Just so many injuries, man. Shoulder injuries seem to be our big one. Every linebacker on our team, which is like even the rotating guys mostly, like had like AC sprains and stuff like that, and just so much adversity you got to fight through there. Like it's hard to come and play a game in like an injury that is about pain management, because you're gonna hit people with that shoulder and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot. But those guys did a great job of toughing it out like as much as they could and going through PT and everything, trying to get as right as they possibly can. But I think that adversity just makes the season even more special, because when you got guys who are hurting and down and not feeling 100% and you're still dominating these teams and competing at a high level, it's really cool to see how everyone comes together, especially those like second string guys that just get thrown in there. They're like, hey, we got nobody else, you got to go, and still being able to compete at a high level. It's amazing.
That season was definitely special, and I'm glad to have got the inside scoop. And we were circling a lot of the same games that it sounds like y'all were looking forward to. We knew that Peyton had some dudes in the trenches. They're a bit on the younger side, so I think that they'll be kind of on the rise and a little bit more of a challenge either next year or the year after. But they came to play, and then Colorado Springs Christian, Simon was at the game last year or your junior year against CSCS, and that was a crazy game. I remember listening to his recap, and it was just so back and forth. And so, hey, but y'all brought it this second year, though, So, and it's all those narratives and all those stories that definitely play into it and build that fuel. And it was funny just kind of listening to you talk about this season, because I was getting, well, not the exact same vibe, but it kind of reminded me. I don't know if you've seen The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary that's on Netflix, but it's like, and I took that personally. That's kind of, Dylan Hearn put that shoulder into your chest. and knocked you on your tush, I took that personally. And then you just wreck their entire game plan and just make sure that every hit counts and everything like that. So
Yeah, man.
and
Like,
seeing the CSCS guys before y'all on the field, I took that personally. And then just delivering every single time and, rising to a lot of occasions, obviously exceeding to a
yeah,
point
man.
as well. So
No, it was definitely like that a lot of the time. Like even when there was no narrative against the team, like there was no previous beef or anything like that, or like they beat us before. Like you got to create the scenario in your head that like they're out to get me. They're out to take something that I earned, like something I deserve, and so I think that's just a huge part of being like a great competitor. If you want to win, you're gonna have to create scenarios where like this person has become your true enemy and that like you're gonna have to take them out. And I think it just things just get under my skin easy during football. Like I feel like I'm a very calm, chill person outside of football, but like little things will happen during the game and I'm just oof, it makes me want to compete even more, man. I think that's just a reason why we were so good this year and why we won so many games is, everyone here wants to compete and everyone here wants to win. Like we hate losing more than we want to win, like, and, just take away everything that could, damage our record or, hurt us in a game and stuff like that. And just doing everything we possibly can to come away with a win that week.
And deliver within the lines. I
Yeah.
think that it's important that you have that distinction where during the game, these guys are my enemy, and then afterwards, good reps, good reps.
Yeah, no, man,
So,
like that's how it is especially in high school football, man. Like a lot of these guys, like you'll play other sports against them, and you'll see them at camps and stuff like that. So it's like you don't want to have beef with people. Like I hate when people have like genuine like beef with me. Like I just like when everyone's chill and happy together. So, after games, I love talking to players and like getting their view on things and, talking about how their game was and being like, hey man, you took me on this play, man. Like that was a great job by you and just kind of like bouncing stuff off of them. Like I remember very specifically, I remember talking to America after the Wiggins game, talking about linemen a little bit because they played him in regular season, and me and him were just catching up a little bit and just talking. Man, I was making sure his knee was all right because I know he hurt it earlier in the game. So I was like, and just being a positive person after the game. You don't want to leave places with bad blood. You don't want to hurt your relationships with people over a football game. It's because it's a game at the end of the day. No matter how competitive you were during it, afterwards, they're just people out there. And so I pride myself in the fact that I don't like not like being mad at people afterwards. I don't like talking trash to people afterwards. And like we had a couple of times this year where some teammates wanted to talk a little bit, and I was like, listen guys, like if we're going to be chippy during the game, we have to just be respectful and take our win or our loss on our chin after the game. Just no excessive like hate comments towards other people, and just be respectful and build a good culture there, because that's what really makes a team successful, is building a culture that's positive and classy. Because dirty teams are dirty teams, and people don't like those teams. People don't want to go to those schools. And to build a culture that's more positive and compete during the game and be a great team, but afterwards, dap everybody up, say good game. You don't have to like them, but you can treat them well.
Absolutely. And, it's funny because there's so many things that you alluded to throughout this season. I honestly could go with a number of follow-up questions in each different category, but I think I'm going to start with just talking, almost doubling back to some matchups. You talked about a lot of matchups, but there's also that state perspective as well, and obviously us in the media and stuff like that. And it sounds like you're pretty tight in your community. So I want to go with the first one I want to go with is there anyone that you didn't play against that you wish you had a chance to go against in pads, whether it was somebody that you repped against at a camp that you wish you got to play against, or if there's anybody from neighboring schools that you wish you got to do reps against? I think One example that just came to the top of my head was we had Carson Kaplan as a top interior offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So I was what would that matchup look like? I don't know if you had any in your head that you were thinking of.
No, I definitely like some of those like Pine Creek kids. I've been to camps against them and stuff like that, and I know a couple of my buddies go to Pine Creek, so they know them. Like I don't know a lot of guys personally like that, but you know, like the Carson or the Pine Creek center, he's real good. He's a good athlete, man, and you know, he's just somebody I want to compete against, man. Like especially being in the same like city as him, you know. I went to a couple Pine Creeks during Pine Creek games during the season on like bye weeks and stuff like that, or if we had a different like a game on Friday and they played on Saturday or something like that. I went to a couple of their games, man. Just watching him play, he's solid fundamentally. He's so good, and it's somebody like that I think would give me such a challenge that I want to see and kind of self-evaluate myself against somebody who's such a like a high level of competition. But I'd say like even playing like offensively, like I prefer to play like guard and stuff like that, which is what a lot of colleges and stuff look at me for, which we'll talk about later. But Ti up at Cherry Creek, he's somebody I want to compete against. I know he used to go to Elbert, I believe, in like 8th grade or something like that. And my little brother knew him and like threw against him in track. And you know, they're always talking like, oh, he's this big kid, you know, like he's huge. And I was like, well, he's in 8th grade. Like, how big could this kid be? And then seeing him when he got to Cherry Creek, and I was like, yeah, no, they're right. He's a big, strong dude, man. Like, and he's only a sophomore, I believe. Yeah, he's the same age as my brother, so he's an amazing player. I know he's got a bunch of D1 stuff lined up already, man. And somebody like that is somebody who I want to block on the offensive ball, like the offensive side of the ball, just so I could play against somebody who has that high level of game to play like a little bit as a freshman and play a bunch as a sophomore. And at Cherry Creek, like a team like that, like the kid's special, man. And you know, it'd be an honor to compete against somebody that's doing something as special as that. And you know, I'm a little upset that I never got to meet the dude while my brother competed with him.
Well, I could tell you firsthand, we got to cover TI, you know, that 8th grade season a little bit, watch some of their playoff games, and he's like that for sure. So also shout out to you for knowing ball. I mean, I know that he was in the Springs for a while and then went up Metro, but shout out that Colorado support that you got going on.
Like I love Colorado football, man. Like I can't tell you how much time I spend on Max Preps or looking at like all these other teams. Like it's so fun to go through that stuff and see the other guys and what they're doing out here. Like I know a couple of different guys, even if it's just from track and like knowing them from different stuff and like kind of just in like free time, just seeing where they're at, seeing what that team's doing. Like one of the dudes that I don't know him personally, but like watching his film and stuff like that, just from competing against him in track, is the guy up at Erie. He's a big dude. I think he's committed to Washington State or something like that.
Oh, Kogo.
Yeah. No, he's somebody that I was like, you just gotta like see what he's doing every once in a while, because you know those guys are doing something special. The guys who are putting Colorado on the map, man. Like I think what put me in love with like seeing what everyone else is doing in the state, and like even if you're not competing against them, just like seeing all these guys that are, you know, getting all these D1 offers out here, and you know, like damn, like these guys are doing something special out here in Colorado. You know, you don't see this all like very often. And then I think watching like Brayden Dorman and like BB Hills playing at Vista down the street, man. Like I remember being like freshman, sophomore watching them play, and I was like, dude, these guys are like insane. Like being a young kid and like seeing like a hometown hero almost. Like we didn't go to the same school or anything like that, but like I support Vista, like a lot of the Vista football stuff, because like I have friends that go there, and you know, like watching.
And y'all have
play,
the same announcer, I think.
Yeah.
For home games.
Yeah, like they have like they've had a great team up there, and like watching them play, I was like, this is cool, man. Like I like seeing what everyone else is doing around the state. Like it's beautiful to see how the state's developing football wise. And then I know a couple of guys, I know like Chase Real on our team, like does like TFG like for 7-on-7 tournaments, and so he competes against some of those like he competes with some of those like top guys in the state, like 4A, 5A level, you know, super talented, like Division I level kids and stuff like that. So it's really cool to just kind of like every once in a while just go track, see how all these guys are doing and what they're doing with their recruitment wise and how their film's looking. And it's a fun thing to do, especially like the in-town kids too, like Colorado Springs. We're not as highly viewed as like some of like the metro teams up in Denver because they're just these huge schools, and so they kind of slip under the radar sometimes. But like Solomon Latimer, out of Doherty, like I've known him a little bit, but he's one of my buddy's best friends, and so like I love watching his like recruiting process and how he's like putting up all these crazy numbers, and like I don't know that guy super well. He's not my best friend or anything, but like to know somebody like that that's putting up crazy numbers and leading the state and stuff like that, and it's a cool thing to be a part of, and to I think it's important to sit down and like appreciate it all and not be so self-centered and watching like only yourself compete and go through only your film. Like there's a lot to learn even from like other position groups on like how they hold themselves and stuff like that. So it's really fun to go through and watch all their stuff and see how they're doing.
I can't believe that you're going to be a member of Playmakers Corner someday with the research you're doing on your own time. I'm like, man, we got some season previews if you want to help out with those. But in all seriousness, no, it's awesome to have that connection, and you definitely learn a lot about just the game in general, watching it on all three levels. Up front, on that secondary level, and at that backer level and stuff like that. So being able to watch those players succeed and excel, and Brayden Dorman, very historical player, BB Hills. I mean, everybody that you listed either was, is, or in the case of TI is probably going to be a top 5 senior at their position. So game recognizes game for sure. And I guess I don't know how much exposure you've had as far as looking at talent across the country, but we are of the utmost belief that Colorado is overlooked. It is underrated.
Yes.
And I guess, what are kind of your thoughts on maybe if you agree and why that is?
Colorado football is so underrated, man. Like I could talk about this forever. Like I wouldn't put us as like the top football state because obviously you got the Californias and Texas and Georgia, Florida, stuff like that, where those teams are just, it's built into their state culture almost that they're supposed to be good, and people transfer from out of state to get there, because it's the way that football is developed. But like especially in like the Midwest area, center of the country, like I feel like it's super underrated. Like you see some of the athletes that are coming out of Colorado, and especially being like a heavy military state, like definitely in the Springs, especially like a lot of these kids come from other places too. Like you're not just a Colorado native, you got kids from California where my family's from, and you got kids from places like Florida transferring in, and we got a couple of Texas kids that transfer to our school. Like it's cool to see how like it's just a melting pot of players from other places. It's not just Colorado kids or only Colorado kids. Like, and there's so much talent, bro. There's so much talent here, and I think there's definitely things that like could be improved on, like maximizing that talent in the state. And like there's not as many opportunities as there are in other states that have been more like competitive for like a long time, where people are there to train kids from a younger age, and there's all these developed programs and stuff for like even like super young athletes, where like Colorado's slowly becoming, like you see it more and more, where there's these competitive like youth leagues that are popping up, and turning into like something there. You get like these insane like kids that are in elementary school, middle school, and stuff like that are like competing at such a high level. And I think that's like the base layer to having players be great in high school and be those like super high like 5-star 4-star recruits and everything. And so I think it's going to be a matter of time, but I think Colorado is going to be one of the like top recruited places. Like it's developed so much more, especially down in the Springs. Like I talk to my parents about it all the time when they moved here. Like Colorado Springs was tiny. Like this was not half as big as it is now. And like the way it's developing everywhere, and like the amount of like housing settlements and everything, everyone's moving in. Like prime examples like Fountain, Fort Carson down there. All these neighborhoods are just popping up, and you see that school like jumping up and how competitive it is every year. Like they got huge kids down there, and they got a great program and great weight room, and it all starts with like the community that surrounds it. And I think the fact that Colorado is getting a lot of development and people coming here and moving here and everything like that. It's just expanding on how competitive our sports and our football especially is going to be. So I really think that a lot's going to change in the next 5-10 years with Colorado football. Like there's going to be a lot more players going out of here to big out of state schools, going to those Power 5 D1 programs, because the culture is definitely starting to develop here that we got some good football.
And I think that what you brought up as far as a lot of people moving in and that, talent that did compete in other states is also here as evidence. I appreciate that. I'm actually writing that down so that we have more fuel for when we go back to our culture series.
Of course,
not
man.
This season, but the next season. But don't worry, I'll cite you. So it's all good. And I think that's a great point. And Colorado Springs definitely overlooked. And I know that's why Coach V, who's down there. He teaches down there, and I could tell that he has a lot of pride. And he kind of experiences the highs as well as some of the lows, depending on the season and the matchups when it comes to Springs football. But I got to agree that, and that's happening all over the state. There's people who move into Fort Collins. I mean, I grew up in Aurora, so like Buckley Air Force Base, a lot of people moving over there and ending up on, a random athlete on Rangeview who, gets overlooked because Rangeview is a program that struggles, but, is running for 150 yards a game no matter who it's against. Like, all right, where are they from? Are they from Colorado? Which is also a chance, but it's like, oh, no, they moved from, like you said, a Texas or a California. They're also here, and they're competing, and, they don't automatically just dominate when they move here too, which I think is a reflection on where Colorado football is as well.
Yeah, so man, it's really nice. Like they're bringing that culture in from other states too, which I love. Like just seeing the way people like I said it earlier, but I think the best term for it is like a melting pot, man. It's become such a heavy concentration of like different backgrounds and stuff like that. And so you bring all these guys in, and I think eventually it's going to create something really special.
Yeah, we're trying to push that, man. We're trying to
absolutely
to get it on that scale, and I think it's going to get there. Obviously, the football I think has been elevating over the past few years and just keeping up a little bit more with the rest of the country as far as schemes and stuff like that goes. And level of play has been there, and we're starting to get those SEC recruits and stuff like that out there. And it's only a matter of time before it really blows up. So I got to shout you out and Banning Lewis Prep as well for being a part of this culture and establishing what y'all have done, and in such a short amount of time, definitely accomplishing quite a bit. And you're talking about you've kind of alluded to it a little bit as far as what is unique, but that you've kind of talked about the Springs quite a bit. But I want to ask you, what's unique about Banning Lewis, either as a football program, as a school, or even the community, and what does it mean to you to wear that Stallions uniform, or what did it mean to you to put that uniform on, and what was it like wearing it for one last time?
Yeah, man, this place is like the neighborhood, the schools, like everything built together is something special. Like you can tell people care so much about like the players personally. Like I think the best way I can explain is like me personally, from my experience, like, and again, I'm a little bit more well known just because I was the big football player and everything like that. So all the parents know me, all the admin at school know me. It's not a super big school yet, it's still at like a very personal level. So when you have that many people in your corner, like from the ladies at the front desk that are greeting me all the time and being lovely, and from the admin too, like they all know me and they'll talk to me and you have conversations, and all your teachers personally, and so you have a good rapport with everybody that you're talking to, and everyone cares about the program, and everyone's always asking like, oh, how's the football team doing? Like, and obviously they assume I'm on the football team if they don't already know, just because of my size, but it's really good from the community aspect, and the parents are super supportive, man. Like they've put so much money towards this and so much effort. Like my mom especially, I'll give her a little shout out, like doing team dinners and stuff like that, like pre-games, organizing it, doing all like the booster club stuff. Like we don't have just somebody's parents who just dump a bunch of money into the program. Like it takes a lot of effort from a lot of families, and being able to build something from a team of 22 guys, it's only 44-ish parents, if that, supporting. So to build something this special and this big and this quickly from not that many people, it's hard to do. And so it shows you how supportive our community is and how much they care about us as people more than football players. And then school wise, like inside that school, it's very personal. Like everybody. I know like so many people at the school at this point. It's ridiculous because you don't have a lot of cliques because there's not as many kids just to like separate everybody out, so everyone's kind of close and somewhat like everyone knows each other, at least on like a semi-personal level. And a lot of these kids have known each other since like middle school, because you go straight from the middle school right to the high school. It's all in the same building. So and then those people want to support the football team too. So having everybody that you're so close to and that you've grown up with there alongside you as you build this program, it's a really nice thing to have. And it's such a personal thing, like going back to like not separating by ages at all. Some of my closest friends are sophomore, juniors, just from sports obviously, but like the fact that you're not as separated by class, and I only hang out with seniors or whatever. It's a lot easier to socialize and communicate with those younger guys. And I think it builds such a positive aura around the team where, everyone's knows each other. There's no freshman that's like nobody knows and nobody talks to, and everybody knows everybody. Like there's not one person that I haven't had like an extended conversation with on that football team. So you're really, really close with everybody, man. And it's really nice just being able to have so many people in your corner. And I know going through the season, everyone's always asking like, how was the game? Like, how'd you guys do? Did you guys win? Like, super like involved and wanting to be, with us on this journey where we're winning these games and doing all this historical stuff. You can tell people like want to put their effort towards it, and so it's definitely a lot easier to go through things whenever people are supporting you. And then even now, like football season's over, right? But I still got to go through all my recruitment stuff, and especially going to a 1A school, it's hard to get recruited fast. Like it takes a lot more time than it might take at a bigger school where you don't have to build that rapport with coaches who've been talking to you since we were sophomore, junior. So that people just being in my corner doing everything they can for me, like hey, like you ever talk to this coach? Like my son goes here and he's like a student coach or whatever. Or, a couple of guys at like CSU Pueblo, and like they've been talking to the coach for you. And like so much stuff that you have to appreciate that they're doing that extra stuff that you didn't even have to ask them to do. They're just they want to see you succeed more than anything, and I think that's the most beautiful part about it.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely special to those, especially smaller schools and those more tight-knit communities, and being such a new community as well. I mean, this is what we got to invest in right here, right now, what's in front of us. And I think that has also contributed to how special this has been. And I do want to get to recruiting. I feel like I'm not eating up too much of your time, am I?
No, I got nothing going on. I could talk about this for all night, man.
Sweet, because I love the storytelling we got going on, and I love the way that you tell it and describe it. And it just made me so curious on this season, and I just kind of want to see, in your eyes, kind of what were some things that you think separated y'all from your competitors, and what were just some like lessons that you kind of learned from this past season as an individual. And to take it one step further, what are some lessons that you hope the younger guys learn from this past season and continue to carry on that tradition?
Oh, man, this is a real special season. So I think we'll start with the things that, I think I learned personally from the season about myself and about, as an athlete and a student and everything. Like I learned a lot about like how to overcome the little things, because you get all these little things thrown at you, all this little adversity that from afar doesn't look like that much of a big deal. Like it doesn't look like it should affect you, but once they start hitting you and you're taking all these body shots, of injuries or fatigue or just tired, like being tired and everything like that, and injuries and having to deal with like personal things and players like not being cooperative and making sure that you keep that end goal in sight the whole time. You learn to be so much tougher as an athlete and as a person. So I think that's probably what I took away from myself, and it's just try and take things like one step at a time, man. Don't get so involved in everything else that's going on, and just the most successful people are the people who push through the little things and the little adversity and don't focus so much on everything all at once. Just one step at a time, man. One step at a time. And something I want some of these younger guys to learn is if you want true success out of something, like you gotta commit to it, and you gotta commit to it early. Like there's no easy route to get to where you want to be. Like I know that firsthand from being a football recruit on a 1A level. It's a lot harder that way. I know it from starting as a freshman on a brand new program. Nothing's going to come easy. Nothing's going to come without the hard work and the dedication, especially in this off season. Like our weights are already starting, man. Like you guys got to, like biggest things, you got to get in that weight room and just commit to it now. Cause if you just wait for the end goal to come around during season, it's not going to end the way you want it to. And that's the worst feeling ever. And that's one of the things I fear most in life is the fact that I put something off so much that I care about that, I don't get the result that I want because of how, lazy and like avoidant I was at the beginning of it, when I could have just committed to it and just gone after that thing with my entire soul. But yeah, those are probably the things I want everyone else to learn, like those younger guys to learn. And obviously I'm close with a lot of them, and I can't wait to see what they do in the next couple of years. And they're gonna have a lot of adversity. I hope that that's something that they're easily able to overcome.
And when we're talking about them, we're going to steal from you a little bit here and just ask, who are some players that we should keep an eye out for heading forward? We might know some of these names, but maybe the listeners don't. And, I'm going to be taking notes anyway for when we do our season previews. Yeah. So, and you're the inside source.
All right. So first and foremost, the most obvious one, I think, or he's going to think it's the most obvious, but Chase Real, he's a stud, man. That kid's been in the weight room since he was like 3 years old, man. He's such a hard worker and so dedicated on the football field. Like going talking to him, like even during the season, he's like, man, I just want to be better. Like I want to push myself and run as hard as I can to practice to be better. Like his mentality when it comes to sports is on another level, man. And I think that's why he's such a good like power back, and how he's able to run everybody over is he's got that want. But I think one player that he's younger, so he hasn't gotten a lot of looks yet, and he's a little underrated because the way our offenses ran. But he's great on the defensive side of the ball. Is Jordan Jones. Like that kid is a freak athlete, man. Like, there's football, basketball, track, whatever it is. Like as a freshman in track, he got put into our 100-meter team, and they went to like nationals with that. So he's such a good athlete. He's such a good guy. Yeah, they were solid, man. And he's so athletic and so young. And the one thing I wish he'd do is invest a little bit more time in that weight room, which I know is hard because he's a stud basketball player too. But he's a great athlete. He's a great corner, especially. He's got such a good like lanky build where those hands can get anywhere, and he can catch anything and jump over anybody. And so I think he's going to be something special in these next couple of years. And I think he's going to develop a lot as a player, and as he gets more mature and everything like that, and puts a little bit of muscle on, I think he's going to be unstoppable, especially at the 1A level. I don't see many athletes out here that can do what he can do. So, yeah, don't want to get yelled at by any of my teammates for not including them. But I think somebody.
That's where you just say, shout out the younger guys who are going to be coming up and carrying the torch right there. It's like, and it's also fair to be like, hey, if they haven't proved it yet, they got to earn it too.
Gotta earn it, baby. Yeah, there we go. No, there's definitely some younger guys that haven't gotten their chance yet that I'm like, hey, you got to invest in yourself this offseason. You got to take care of that so you can be the best you can be. I think somebody I got to shout out because he works hard, man, and he's family. So I kind of got it as my little brother. Like even if he's not one of those kids that's going to go play college ball because he's not super big frame or anything like that, but he's a freaking athlete, dude, and he's 5'8", 5'9". I like to say he's 5'6", but he gets put down in the trenches at like 165, if not less, at some points during the season. And he plays like nose tackle and stuff like that, and got put in like guard and on offense. And you're like, this kid's a dog, and he's putting up stats. Like I think he had a couple more TFLs than me, which in my opinion was thanks to me because I'm eating up all the double teams. But he's a stud athlete, man. He plays
you
hard.
let him have it sometimes,
yeah. But in his defense, he's a lot quicker than I am. Like that kid is fast, and so if he gets past that blocker, he's gonna get that tackle. So, and he played through his injuries too this season, man. Like I know the last couple of games he had either broken or bruised ribs. We weren't sure, but playing through that the last couple of games and going into the playoffs, and even playing a couple playoff games with that. And then before that, he had issues with like his lower back from an injury previously, and he's still going out there and getting 5 or more tackles in a game and getting a sack or whatever, and being out there and being productive. And I think his biggest thing is like he's got to mature like emotionally and control himself, and he'll be a stud, and he'll be a problem, especially if they move him to linebacker next year, where he's a lot more physical than a lot of guys his age are, and he's a lot stronger than a lot of guys are his age. And so I think he could do something special as long as he provides himself that opportunity. But gotta think one of our guys, I feel bad for him. He had to move back to Texas. Our linebacker Cam Leggett, he was a stud this year, man, and like trying to break his bad habits and everything throughout the season. But he was great at linebacker. Like he had some iffy spots at like tight end that he improved by the end of the season. We put him more at like a slot spot, but on defense he was killing people, filling holes. Like he was smart the way he played. Even if he didn't act like it, he was still reading stuff and flowing correctly, and the way like his tackling form is great, and he's taking down guys that were like his size or bigger, and he's got a great frame for a linebacker, being like 6'2", he's about like 190 to 200 pounds as a sophomore too. And that kid's doing something special, whether he makes it back for next season or if he has to stay in Texas. But I think he's got something going for him down there. See any other younger guys that playing? I can't think of any more younger guys that are like have earned the right to get mentioned yet. Some of them.
See, it's all about how you word it, right?
Yeah. Some of them got some good potential. They just got to commit to themselves. And, some of them aren't, football first guys. Some of those guys are like, I really like track or I really like basketball. So, but those are the younger guys I really want to highlight, because there's a couple of freshmen that haven't really gotten their chance yet. So I think they could do something special if they commit themselves.
Yeah, that's a TBD situation.
Yeah,
but
yep.
I mean, y'all also had a handful of seniors, and this is a part where, I'd kind of like to see who are some teammates that you interacted with, whether that was, or even guys that you repped against in the off season, whether it was at colleges or anything like that, that made an impact on your game, and what was that impact?
Guys are really this. So I think the one that I repped against a lot, he just happened to be at all the camps I was at. He was injured throughout the season this year. He goes to Pine Creek too, number 67, I believe. But so there's something 60 something. But he's long hair Samoan kid, and going against him at like camps and stuff, he was good and he was solid. Like he's my skill level or even a little bit higher. And I think he got robbed of his season a little bit, but he was tough, man, and he was strong and smart, which is the best things you can be as a lineman. And it's like, especially, I can't remember if he was a senior or junior, but I'm pretty sure he was a senior, and he's just out there like being smarter and more physical than people. There's I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He goes to Brighton High School, I think, and he's played against him a couple camps, like real cool dude. I think he plays center as well. But like going up reps against him on defense and blocking him a couple times on offense, like he pushed me a little bit, and he doesn't look like he'd be like super strong, but that kid can bench more than I can. And he doesn't look like it. I'm like, damn, I can put up some big weight, but this kid can bounce some stuff, dude. And so, going up against somebody who's like my strength level and, has like good fundamentals, it just changes my mentality from like a run through this guy's space to like all right, well, you got to work against what he does wrong. Like if he steps wide, then, you got to attack that shoulder differently. You got to use his leverage against him. And if he's leaning too much on going out, then you break him to the inside and stuff like that. So it's all just helped me develop like how I think as a player more than how I necessarily like do like change my fundamentals. Like definitely change my thought process and how I view things. And that helped me in season, like helped me with noticing people's tendencies and being able to break off the ball faster than them and know exactly what they're running before they even know they're running it. So
those are definitely some good recs. I know who you're talking about as far as those guys. Just no, I'm kind of in the wrong profession here because I'm kind of bad with names, and this is like as big of a name game as you could play.
Absolutely.
But it's like there's no guys who can play ball, so I got you there.
No, I'm definitely bad with names too.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle, but all the worthy battles are uphill anyway. So that's the way that I justify that. And speaking of, you've talked about a lot of guys who are in those higher classifications that you've got to rep against or whose game you respect and stuff like that. I just kind of want to see what you think makes the 1A classification unique compared to those other classifications. Mm-hmm. And then I also want to just give you a platform to defend 1A because I know way too many I know way too many bench guys on the 5A level that think they could dominate in lower classifications. And 100%. No, they would just still be riding the bench. Even there's guys who think that they could start for Banning Lewis when they only have 5 linemen. It's like, nah, we're just going to roll with these 5 all game instead of wheeling you out here. And I just want to give you a chance to kind of stand up for yourselves and then just talk about what makes 1A special.
Yeah, man. 1A gets so much hate for it, but like, a lot of these 5A guys, they get put behind somebody and they sit there for their whole career because they don't have that dedication and that like want to win. And when you get put in a position where you're gonna have to start as like a freshman and play as a freshman, I think that just changes your mentality altogether. And that's not gonna happen in most 5A schools unless you're already like some big stud. And so these kids get development at like playing football from their freshman year, playing good varsity teams. And a lot of these 1A schools, man, like they're small towns, like they get a whole town's worth of kids. And if you live in like no offense to anybody that this applies to, but if you live in like a podunk town where like all you got to do is, take care of the farm and lift weights and there's not much else to do out there, like you're going to be a lot better at and a lot stronger than a lot of the guys who have all the distractions that you might have in, a more suburb or city like area. So like if football is your life and that's all you got out there, you're going to be a lot better at football than somebody who just plays football as like a sport, And I think the culture in like all of these towns in 1A, like you look at like the Lyman's and the Wiggins and where the town shuts down for games, like Denver doesn't shut down for a Cherry Creek game. There's a lot of people that go to the games, but everything's still running. Where like you got a lineman at a big playoff game, and you're not going to find a restaurant open because the whole town's at the football game. And these kids are big, man. Like I think everyone thinks that everyone in 1A is like 5 foot tall and 100 pounds. I was like, you got guys like me who like I'm not terribly tall. I'm only like 6'2" ish, but I'm still like 300 plus pounds, and I can squat plenty, I can bench plenty, and I lift plenty. Like we have a lot of resources that people seem to think we don't have. Like just because we're at 1A doesn't mean we don't have a weight room at our school. Like some places aren't blessed with that, and like but that's not the entirety of 1A. Just because you're a 1A school doesn't mean that you you only have 3 kids at your school, and your football team like is only 10 guys and a coach who's playing like a position with the kids. Like that, it makes no sense to me why people get these narratives in their head that like 1A is nothing, and like it takes me off a little bit every time someone says it. Like they're like, oh, we're like, where's your school? Because they see me compete, and they're like, where's this guy go? Like I've never seen him before. And I'm like, Banning Loose, like we're 1A. Like I have to preface that it's 1A, so I know they're not gonna know what it is unless it's like an in-town like school like Doherty or something like that, or Vista. And they're like, oh, is that like 8-man football? I'm like, no, it's not 8-man football. Like we play 11-man football, and we play it competitively. And I was like, just because you guys are 4A, 5A, whatever, doesn't mean that you have any edge on us besides maybe player pool. But whenever football is your life, like a lot of these schools in 1A, like you're going to be better than the people who want to do everything else. And I think one of the biggest things is like at 1A, you're going to have a lot of explosive and athletic guys because you go to these 5A schools, and it's like, oh, well, this guy plays just football because it's hard to get through like all this off season where the coaches have so much structure, and like they're not allowed to play other sports. Like at 1A, every kid plays every sport because there's nobody else to play the sports. Like you only have so many kids, and so many of those kids are athletes. So you got guys that play 3 sports throughout the year, and you're going to be a hell of an athlete if like you play all the way through like football and go right into basketball, and you're running for track. It's going to develop you a lot as like a person and a player. Like your mentality is going to be so much more mature and ahead of those guys that are just playing football and can chill through the rest of the year. One thing I want to bring up too is obviously you don't get a chance to play teams during the regular season, so it's not like scores taken. But I've scrimmaged against a lot of 4A, 3A. I don't think I've gone against any 5A teams in like scrimmages and stuff like that, and like competing against those guys, and like you're like taking them out, like you're scoring on them, you're stopping them on defense, and you're like, what was all the hype about? Like I thought you guys were 4A, and you wanted to say something about us because we were 1A, but we come out here and we dominate you on the field. Even if you have bigger guys, we got a more physical, more close, more mature team because we don't have any other option besides to be better. And I think like it's so overlooked is the fact that like these 1A teams is like so close knit. Like you're gonna have the varsity guys, and you're gonna have the JV guys, and you're gonna have the freshman guys, all at like these different big schools where it's like 1A, dude, you got to know everybody on your team. Like everybody's probably gonna have a chance to play at some point. And so it's a lot more personal, man. And I think it helps build team chemistry, which is a big contributor in what wins games and what makes a good football team. So that's a little bit of my personal take on it.
Thank you for sharing that. And, as somebody who went to Arapahoe, that's a 5A school,
yeah,
there were a handful of freshmen who I didn't even know their names, if I'm going to be 100% honest, just because the amount of times that those paths cross is just significantly less. Yeah. So everything that you said, I'm going to put that 100 emoji at the end of it because it's nothing but straight facts. So, yeah. And something else that you kind of talked about too is getting those looks on the 1A level is a bit more difficult. And, I want to take this time to kind of just hear what your recruiting story is and kind of what that has looked like so far.
Yeah, I guess we can start a little bit at freshman year. Like not a lot happens then, but going into the freshman year, like especially whenever you're a young kid, like 14 years old or however old you are, and you're a freshman, you go into football and they're like, hey, you're going to be a starter your freshman year and you're going to play like on both sides of the ball. Like you got this huge expectation. And me personally, I was like, man, like this makes me feel like I'm like different. Like I'm standing out against like these other guys. And then that's the thing that's where like the passion for college football like truly began. Like I had said stuff about it in middle school and things like that, but you don't really grasp the concept of recruiting and how difficult it is to get into a good college football program and compete at such a high level. And so once you get to that freshman year, it was hard because it's COVID year, so football got postponed, and then we were playing like like a couple months into like school starting, but we're still online with classes, and we didn't have access to the weight room like my entire freshman year. So that's something that I think is like a big misstep in my development, is like not being able to lift, like not having that time to grind out in the weight room and really learn what I was doing until almost like my sophomore year, pretty much. Like you just think what that'll do in your development, but definitely freshman years were that starting that on both sides of the ball. I'm like, dang, like I think I could be the best player to walk through this program for the next 4 years, as long as I keep like pushing myself, and I can go play some college ball, which is like became like such an attainable dream that it really just put this fire in me. It was like, and almost too much of a fire, because it's like, if I don't get to this point, like what am I going to do? Like I'm putting all my eggs in this basket, because at the 1A level you gotta commit to playing college football, otherwise you're just going to fall behind with the rest of the guys, because going through and doing all the recruiting stuff and reaching out to coaches is so much harder whenever you like lack the notoriety that some of the bigger schools have, and some of like the recognizability from and past connections. So it's a lot harder to do that, especially at a new school and as 1A. There's a lot that goes into it that makes it such like an adversity filled path, where you can have a lot of obstacles that you have to overcome, that guys who go up to these bigger schools don't have to do. Like their biggest deal like their freshman sophomore year is like, how am I going to get to that varsity point? How am I going to improve myself to that point? Where like mine was like, well, how am I going to get any kind of looks coming from a school that nobody knows about, and that I have to like show them where it's at when they ask me what the school is. So going through it and trying to figure it all out was definitely rough at the beginning, especially, and even going through like sophomore year. My sophomore season was pretty decent, but like I started to get like a little bit of highlights going, and I was like, all right, I can send these off to coaches and kind of fill out every questionnaires and everything you got to do for the process. And you start seeing like how much more work you're gonna have to put in if you want to make it to that next level, like whether it's on the field or just trying to build connections with people. And then you get all these like false realities put in your head because of social media and how everyone else says it works, even though it's not how it works in reality, especially like from a player standpoint. You got to take everything with a grain of salt and really figure all the answers out for yourself. I don't know, going into like junior year, I was like, man, like this is where I gotta pop out. Like if I want to go somewhere, I gotta put some film out and have a good season. And I believe it's like September something, where like coaches are allowed to start reaching out to you, and you start thinking like, oh no, coaches are talking to me, and then not really realizing that a lot of D2 coaches are going to reach out like later, closer to like your senior year. It starts putting doubt in your head, like, am I really good enough? Like, is this dream really attainable, or is it just something that's going to like drive me nuts for the next 2 years? And then going through junior year, I was like, I talked to a couple of coaches. I've been to a bunch of camps. Like I was doing everything like I was told to. Like my head coach was super helpful and like pointing me in the right direction with that kind of stuff. And he's got and helping me with his connections and everything. And then finally you get to like through my junior year, where like I get a little bit of communication from coaches, but nothing like serious, nothing like permanent really. And then I get to my senior year, and even through the beginning, like I'd gone to camps all summer and hadn't really heard much, and was super unsure about what was going to happen. And I, for the majority of football season, besides the times where I was like sending coaches my like reels, or going on like game day visits and everything, I was like, ah man, like I got nothing permanent right now, like nothing's guaranteed, so I might as well just focus on like my high school ball right now and not get so wrapped up on stuff that like may or may not happen later. So I think that really just helped me like put my season together a little bit and help me focus on developing as a player there, instead of focusing on what I got to do later. And then season comes to an end, and there's a little bit of a dead period, even though I'd gone on these game day visits and I talked to these coaches a little bit, and you start having like meetings with them in like the off season, but like everything's kind of dead because there's teams still finishing their season, or some of them going to playoffs and everything, so you just don't hear much. And man, that doubt really creeps into your head there, and you're just like, oh, what's gonna happen with this? Like you just got no clue what the next step is, and just trying to look for guidance from like coaches and everything. And I think it just staying committed to it just really put me on the right path to getting to where I'm at now, where
it's a test of perseverance, man.
Yes, 100%. And it's because whenever you're so unsure about this stuff, it's you really gotta like be solid in like your belief of yourself. Otherwise, you're gonna lose faith so quickly. And then now I've been talking to some of those D2 RMAC schools for the past couple of months, man, and like developing those relationships after they came out to see us when their seasons were over, and making those little like visits and stuff in November and December. And then you start building those connections, and you start being like, okay, so this is, you gauge like where my opportunity is going to lie, and where am I wanting to end up. And so I guess we could start talking about like how that's gone. And it's like lately, from like recruiting from my colleges, like the top 3 that were like actually talking to me, and like I had visit dates set up for, like I had Fort Lewis out in Durango, I had Chadron State out in Nebraska, and then I had Western State out in Gunnison. And my biggest thing was like, I really like Western, as like personally, like I know people that go there, I got a lot of connections there. And so hearing from them was just, it was an arrow like pointing me in the right, like certainly I was going the right direction. Like it was just a sign. And then, I got all these, like I had my visit at Fort Lewis last weekend or Monday. Yeah. So I had it on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and was out there, had a great visit, had a great time talking to those coaches and like going through the workouts. And, you kind of, once you start feeling this like recruitment, like you can tell these coaches want you, it makes it start feeling a little bit more worthwhile. And, now I got a visit at Western in a couple of weeks, like right before signing day. And so we'll like still seeing how everything shakes out. Like no decisions and no technical official offers with like money or anything, like with like details on money, but I know I have scholarship opportunities waiting, and just got to figure out, find details and everything, which it's really cool to see everything just kind of fall into place. And
after a lot of waiting and a lot of patience and a lot of breath holding, arguably.
No, definitely, man. It's like finally, I finally feel like all this like insane work that I had to put in just to get here is finally, kind of paying off. I'm like, all right, like we're starting to get an idea where we're going. Like,
you can see it going.
Deep dive. You get to deep dive into those programs that are talking to you. Like Fort Lewis is someplace, they have had like a bad record in like the years past, but like talking to the coaches, like you can see something special developing up there. And like I know Coach Grindy, if there's the line coach and the offensive coordinator, he's like great guy. Like talking to him, he's like explaining everything that's going on up there, and he's like, you kind of see the opportunities that are going to lie for you in different places, and seeing like they might not have won last year, but like would I be able to contribute like even my freshman year and play my freshman year? And like it's kind of those things where it's like it's also like how I did high school, is where I came from like a program that for us was non-existent. For them, it's just like a restart of a program, like a rebuild. Like do I want to like build another program up? And it's all things that you got to take in and consider. Where like Western was in the playoffs this last season, and so they already are building a successful like culture. And I've been to camps for Western since I was a freshman. That was the first camp I ever went to. It was a Western like football prospect camp, and you kind of just want to place yourself in all those little the little scenarios that you can see yourself in at those different colleges, and I think all that's just going to help me make my decision. And I'm blessed to have the opportunities that I'm having right now, and like for everything to come together like this, and it's just excited to see where I can go with it, man.
We are so excited to see where you go with it as well. And, it's interesting that you kind of talk about all these different routes that you have, and the world's kind of your oyster, man. So we are so stoked for what your next step is, what your next decision is. And we are eagerly going to await that announcement and maybe see if we time the release of the interview with that as well. Not 100% sure on that, but what are some of your goals or outlook for college ball? What are some things that are kind of at the forefront of priorities for you from a school or program, and how do you plan to reach those goals or try and reach some of those goals and work this off season to be ready for college ball?
Yeah, man, like it just gets me so excited even talking about this stuff because, all these colleges are looking at me like offensive line wise just because of my build and like the way I was playing. So I'll probably end up playing some kind of guard, something like that. There's always the possibility of like position changes and playing on the other side of the ball, especially given my experience and, accolades on that side. So, all these coaches like talking to you finally like settling in, like signing days. I can't wait for it to come, like just so I can know where I'm going. I can get with those coaches. I can find out what I have to do. So start with this off season, man. Like I'm already talking to our head coach about it. I got track coming up, so we'll be doing that from like after school ends, so like around 5:30, and then after 5:30, like getting on that field and getting working because I know, as much as it is weird to train for. Like I got like the All-State game in June, and why not show out there too? Why not have one last hurrah in high school before I go compete at such a high college level? And like definitely I'm getting on that field immediately, finding out talk to every one of those coaches that on whatever team it is I sign with, finding out anything that they say I need to work on, finding the things that I see myself that I got to work on, and just being as well-rounded as a player as I can be by the time July comes around for summer camp or however that like pans out, or fall camp and everything going into season. Like even if I'm not, if it's just a redshirt situation freshman year and everything like that, just being able to get there and just grind, man. Like part of me wants to like regardless be like a redshirt freshman, just because I love the idea of like having that a whole year where it's not as focused on playing, but is like developing myself as an athlete and a player, and like knowing that like the offense or defense or whatever inside out, and just putting myself in a position where I can succeed in long term even more than just playing right away and everything like that. So definitely my goals once I get there though is just I want to be able to make an impact. I don't want to just be there and go through the college program, go through college and just leave. Like I want to leave some kind of legacy, whether it's a super big deal and I make it to some other level of football or anything like that. It doesn't have That's not exactly what I mean, but like making it so I left something behind with that college team by the time I graduate in 4 or 5 years, like something that other guys coming in build off of, and giving something back to the team that took a chance on me, and definitely more of like an accolades like wise. I want to be one of those like all conference guys in like the RMAC where it's like competitive D2 ball. Like I want to be one of those guys that's recognized and kind of have how my high school career has been, where like I got all this stuff to my name, like as like vain as it is, and like as little or as much as the awards may mean, like it just gives me something to work towards and something to measure the accomplishments and the work I put in. And I think really that's just the goal, is to walk away a different man and like a better man from it. And I think that should be everybody's goal going into like that college football experience, is you're gonna find who you are as a football player as well as like an adult, going on your own. And I think that's just the biggest thing I want to figure out and take away and learn from as I get to that college level.
And would you take, looking way, way, way ahead in the future, you think you'd take that experience as well as your other experience and maybe coach someday?
Oh, 100%, man. Like I love football. I could talk football forever. I love the ins and outs of it. So like I just think that like teaching, especially like high school level kids, or like high school football is one of the most like pure like football ages. Like whenever you're between like 14 and 18, like you're this young kid who's developing and who's trying to figure out who they are, and then you get to do that through like a game like football, and getting to share that with like other kids and stuff like that, to share my experiences and be like a guiding light to them through like their high school, like more than just a coach to them, being somebody who they can look to for advice and stuff like that. Like I love the whole idea of it, man. And I selfishly, I think that I have the knowledge to be able to do it, especially given the chance and given, proper education, like post college, like given some like, position group coaching opportunities and just times to like watch other coaches do their thing and just want to bring the best out of myself and the others around me there. I think that's definitely an opportunity that I'd love to explore.
And when that day's around, as long as we're still around, you already know we're going to be spotlighting your program, your position group or whatnot. And, you already scout for free other places. So being able to actually scout and put a game plan together is even more exciting as somebody who's been in the coaching realm and whatnot. So, and, that's something where even in college, like you could find yourself coaching a little bit in spring and, depending on what you're doing, I mean, there's high school kids that come through the college depending on when and where you're at. And you have that opportunity to just continue to pass on that knowledge and continue to grow the game. And that's one thing that I can tell just is so natural for you is the passion that you have in anything you do, but especially football. And Colorado football is way better off for it with your participation in it and what you're giving us now, even on this interview. I'm so excited. And I just hope that, hey, people, if you made it this far, keep sticking around because there's plenty of good to come here. And, there's some guys that we do interview, even when they go off to college. And, I think that that's obviously way ahead in the future. But, I just want to say you're welcome back on the show anytime. And speaking of advice here, we sent it way into the future by asking if you'd ever coach.
Yeah.
Now we're going to send it to the past here and just say and just overarching advice, because the big goal of these interviews is to get your story out there, but also so that these young guys get some lessons, get some tips. And you already alluded to some of it, but what advice would you give to a freshman version of yourself, whether that's recruiting, on the field, friendships, academics, what have you? What advice would you give to a freshman version of yourself, and in turn, other incoming freshmen or players who are planning to play high school ball?
Yeah, man. The biggest thing is if you want that football career to go anywhere, whether that's in high school or after high school, you got to take it seriously. Like football's always been like a fun thing, man. Like I love hanging out with my friends and playing football. Like that's a big aspect of it. But you also got to take it seriously, man. It's got to, if you want to reach your true potential, like it's got to mean more than just the fun to you. Like you can't just be here for the wins. You got to be here for the wins and the losses and getting better from it. And my freshman self especially, like you look at it from such a broad perspective. Like you don't have as much of an understanding of like how everything works. And I just encourage people to dive deep into how like the little things work, whether it's you're looking at how these rankings are developed and like how these teams do this and how these teams do that, or what's my position group like turning into and like molding into in like this day and age, because obviously the position groups change and the fundamentals and the skills that you have change. And I think the more you dive into what you want to do, the more knowledgeable you are in it, the more successful you're going to be, because 100% knowledge is power. And if you're sitting here and you're like, well, I don't know where to start, I'm like, if you got access to the internet of any kind, like get on there, watch YouTube videos on your position group just as a basic, dude. Like I've watched so many like videos and guys like watching guys work out, whether that's at the college or NFL level, that I'm like, you got to pick up on the little things they do and find ways to improve yourself. And I think the second part of that advice is do a lot of self-evaluation and see where you're at yourself, and be your biggest critic, but also be your biggest fan at some points, because even if no one else is supporting you, like you got to support yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing is being independent and not rely on other people to develop yourself as an athlete and a person.
Yeah, you got to take it upon yourself and get into that mode, and you did exactly that. And looking back at your high school career, it's funny because this is usually a question that we put at the beginning of interviews, but the way that this flowed, it was a nice change of pace, because normally we have a script and, I just kind of go bullet for bullet, but we were able to jump around quite a bit and get active. And with that, it's funny that it goes from basically the second or third question typically asked to the second to last one here is, what is your favorite memory playing sports? This doesn't have to be football. This could be any sport, but this could be a specific play, a specific game, a specific win, a specific moment. Whatever it is, take us through your favorite memory as an athlete so far.
There's so many of these, man. I've been blessed with the amount of things that have been able to happen to me during this career. But I think my most memorable thing would probably be, I guess, like just off the top of my head here, and I might have a different answer any other time, but against Peyton this year, my brother and me had played together since we were little kids, and the season was going to be my last hurrah with him. Like, I was probably not going to be able to play with him at the college level, whether or not he makes it, just because of how broad the college spectrum is and how many places there are to go. And so I remember against Peyton, we had the backed up. I don't remember if it was a punt or a kickoff or something, but they were back on there too. And me and my brother lined up. He's at nose tackle, and I'm at a 3 technique, and going through, and I break through real easily, and I'm on that quarterback. I think I'm gonna get a sack, but I don't get there quite in time. He's trying to launch it, so I put my hands up, tip the football, it launches up, bounced right off my hands like a volleyball set. Man, this thing goes high, and then my 5'8" brother standing down there next to Peyton's number 68, who's 6'3" or taller, he's a big guy. He jumps up and catches that football that I tipped for a touchdown, because we had it backed up into the end zone during the play, and he catches it for a touchdown and off my tip, and then he catches it for the touchdown. It was just a real special moment. But I think the best part about it was, him coming up to me and being all excited and freaking out. He's like, "Oh, I got a touchdown. I never got one of these before, in high school at least." I was so it was just cool to see how happy he was about it. And then later, the local news network had us on the Friday Night Blitz or whatever, where they cover the high school games. And then, being on there, they're going over all the game recaps, and, they get to our game where we won 26-0 or whatever it was. And, they show the play where where I tipped it and catch it, and they're trying to go through and say the names of every who tipped it, who caught it, and they called me because they refer to me as my last name all the time, and they said something different for me. It wasn't Skinner, but it was kind of close, and they just messed it up, fumbled their words. But then they said my little brother's name right, and I was like, damn, I tipped the ball. I know he got the touchdown, but you could at least get my name right. They did you dirty. Yeah, but that was really cool, and I always talk to my brother about it. My dad loves it too. He's super involved with our sports and everything, and so it's just become some big inside joke that they like to mess around with me and say my little brother's better than me because they actually know his name, and so that's something that's really special to me, and that I'll hold dear for a long time.
They were really Skim Milk tips the pass, and Skinner gets the interception and touchdown.
Man,
wait, what are you talking about?
What?
It's the same name. Figure it out.
I was like, you got it right the second time, so good on you, 50%, I guess. But I was dying laughing too, because I watched on my mom pulled it up on her phone, and I was like, oh, this is let's see it. Oh, this is kind of cool. I'm like, bro, what's going on here? And everyone's laughing. I'm like, all right, that's enough of that.
It's I'm on the news, but I'm kind of also not on the news.
I was like, I've at least I've been on there before, man. I got interviews on there before. I should be a a celebrity on there by now. Just get my name right. Gosh.
well, don't worry. We got you here at the pod.
Yeah.
We gotta make sure that they don't mess it up again. That's Skinner for anyone that doesn't know it. And that's a fun memory. And I mean, that's just something that a lot of people don't even have the chance to play sports with their siblings. I mean, my brother, he was 4 years younger than me, and he was a hockey guy anyway. So it's one of those things where it's not only do you have to be within the same age range to even have guys potentially both be on varsity or junior varsity at the same time, but you also have to be interested in the same stuff as well. I mean,
Yeah.
who's to say that there's some athletes where it's baseball year round, and even when it's football season, no, it's actually just a different part of baseball season and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
the fact that you're both interested, you're both on the field, you're both able to make plays, and then to have it end in that, I mean, I don't really think it gets much more special than that. And I mean, no matter how much flack you get, you could always just say it was a gift too. It's like, hey, little bro, I'm just looking out for you. This is my job
Yeah,
as the
man.
big brother, is to provide. So
I
I
got
provide the volleyball set, and then you get the points. All right, it's a
yeah,
simple transaction here.
easy. It's like because he always gets mad because for me, I scored my first touchdown sophomore year too on like it's like a homecoming game against Rocky Ford, and like somebody blocked the punt and they're like down on like inside their 10, so like when they blocked the punt, I like picked it up and there's nobody around me, so like waddled my big behind all the way into that end zone. It was 10 yards for
Shout
like
out
over a
Rocky
100-yard
Ford,
sprint.
man.
Yeah, but like it's just so special that he's able to do that. I think it's kind of funny. It's the same years that I got mine too. So it's definitely something to remember.
For sure. And it's funny because y'all are a team in that situation, and we think that it takes a team not only obviously in the game of football to win games and be successful and find yourself in spots like this, but it also takes a team to produce an individual. It takes a village, right? And
Yeah,
a tradition that we have here on the podcast is allowing, as both saying thank you for joining us, is to give you the opportunity to pass along that gratitude and that thanks to anybody who you'd like to mention who's been important to your academic or athletic career here on the show. This could be friends, family, coaches, fellow players, teachers, what have you, and just give you some time to shout them all out here, and
yeah,
take as
man.
much time as you need.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that, man. First and foremost, I gotta thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, of course, because that's very important to me. I think I wouldn't be where I am without him. And then I just really got my parents have done so much for me. Like I could never repay them for not just the monetary stuff they provided for me, but like the amount of like encouragement and emotional support they've put into this and time. And my parents just you can see that they fell in love with the game like I did, as I played. And my dad didn't play football in high school, but he's been so supportive, and like he's always interested in what I'm doing with football, and like always wants to hear about it, and shows up to practices and games, man. You can tell that both of my parents care. My mom has done so much for the team, not just me, but like just to develop the school as a whole. Like she works at the elementary school. Like she knows everybody in this neighborhood, and they care so much, and they've done so much for me. Like it's something that I would never be able to repay. Then I gotta thank my coaching staff a lot, man. There's been some coaches that have changed my life. Like our head coach, amazing guy. Like he's done a lot for me. Like whether it's recruiting or football or just helping me, figure out who I am as a person, even like, and just giving me that knowledge and that that advice that like I think a lot of young guys need to hear. Position wise, like Coach Peterson, Coach Cortese, that are my like offensive and defensive line coaches, and Coach Palmer from years past, who's our defensive coordinator now. But they all coached me on this online, and I genuinely wouldn't be where I am without them. Like they're the ones who corrected my footwork whenever I was doing stuff wrong, or had me go through agility drills because I gotta get you gotta get good feet, otherwise you're not going anywhere. And they've pushed me so much harder than I would ever push myself, and showed me what I can be instead of what I wanted to be originally. Like this is what's really gonna make you special as a player. And I think they really just pushed me and pushed my game and made me like the athlete that I am now, especially in the weight room with some of them too. Love all my other coaches too. Super close. They're not position coaches, and I don't talk to them every practice. So, like at least in practice, because they're taking the wide receivers or the DBs or whatever. But everyone's in my corner, man. Like they all want to just surround me and support me, and build me up to be, who I am. And I think I'm forever grateful for all of them. And, I'm absolutely 100% there for any of them. Then, I really got to thank the amazing friend group I got, man. Like, those guys are something else. Like, I really wouldn't have been where I am without them. Like, going in, like, I've known a lot of these guys since middle school, if not, some of them came in freshman year and stuff like that. But like from like sixth grade, these guys, and you play a little bit of football with them in middle school, and you develop these super, super tight knit relationships. So it's like, these guys are going to mean a lot to me for not just, now, but for like the rest of my life. And these, relationships that I'll cherish and, be close with them, like, as long as I'm able to, and I think that they've done more than they know for me. And like, whether it's just being there for me or hanging out with me and just supporting me, showing me like where I need to go and give me advice, or, even football related, like going out in the field and working with me. Like, my closest friends, probably Julian Laderman, like, was one of our defensive and offensive line guys, like, that he pushed me to be better. And, I think he deserves a lot of praise for what he's done. So I really appreciate that guy. He's helped me through a lot of tough times and helped me, keep my mindset right throughout high school. Within my school and my community, though, like, the entire admin has been been behind me the whole time. It's so supportive. Especially, I mentioned them earlier, but I love our front desk ladies, like, always talking to me, always coming in and checking on me and like asking how I'm doing. Our security guards are amazing at school, and they're always talking to me about the football season and like giving me crap for everything. But everyone just really wants to, be in my corner in that school and support me, whether it's just teachers or admin or, our security guards and stuff like that. And I just feel super overwhelmed with like support every time, something happens or, going through a tough time. And even though we're a small school, like, we're still in a big town where it's not like everybody knows everybody, but they want to make it super personal. And it's a really nice thing to have. And then really, like, that's about everybody I got to thank, outside of like other coaches and stuff that have helped me since I was younger. And, people that, I'd probably think of later and feel bad for not mentioning them, but, there's been so many moving parts to this journey for me, and so much support that, I was thinking, I think about it all the time. Like, I'm so blessed to have like as many people in my corner as I do. Like, some people are just, like, definitely more alone and, don't have the opportunities that I have from the people I know. And, I could never thank any of them enough and repay them for what they've done for me and what, they've created with me and through me. So yeah, I think that's about it.
That's a great support system, and we are thankful for all of them as well, because it has led to, being able to watch this story unfold. One of our favorite storylines actually in Colorado football, having seen this team, and I think that y'all's first year as a program might have been, it was the very first year that we started as a podcast in that COVID year. So, it's been fun and real seeing this kind of all the way through and
seeing you guys grow with us.
Yeah, man. And this 24 class it's special to us because, it's been a full cycle for us. And, I actually coached during that COVID season up in Greeley, and that was a really tough season on basically everyone.
Yeah.
So especially like, I can't even imagine being a freshman during that. So to see all of that growth from all the freshmen up until now, it's really special. And, we're very thankful for everyone that's been supportive to that point and everyone who's been a part of this culture and whatnot. So, and thank you for your time on the show tonight.
Like, I think you guys are doing amazing things for Colorado football. And like, I've been watching since, freshman year, even just like stuff around the state, man. It's really cool to see. And I know some people, don't like the media attention for high school football and think it's a distraction, but I think that's the key to growing stuff is like, if you want people to know about it, they got to hear about it. And, I think especially given like players like me a platform to like talk like this, I think it's an amazing thing that not a lot of people do and not a lot of people think about. And, I think that's going to be a big key to growing and like you guys are going to grow and be more successful. And I think right alongside that, Colorado football is going to grow, and kids' love for the game is going to grow. And I think people are going to start to realize that media in the right sense can be a big benefit and a big contributor to the success of like programs like ours and stuff like that.
We appreciate that, man. And, it's not always easy, but we're glad to do it. And it's players like you and other greats from around the state that make it possible, and that being said, for our listeners, be sure to listen to our top 5 class of 24 episodes. Obviously, this one was episode 329, so go listen to that for our full breakdown on Brayden Skinner, amongst other handfuls of talented players. And we have that for every position here in the state of Colorado in that senior class, as well as other content, whether that be highlights, audios, breakdowns, recaps, and all kinds of fun stuff. More interviews on the way anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as a bunch of other distribution stuff. YouTube, make sure that you follow, like, subscribe to any of those, as well as follow us on social media, whether that be Twitter/X at Playmaker Corner, Playmakers Corner on Instagram, Playmakers Corner on Facebook, and Playmakers Corner on TikTok, where, we are going to have some Brayden Skinner highlights with some of our narration over it. So go check that out. And, we're going to repost that to Instagram. And also we're going to tag Brayden in that, invite him to be a collaborator. Is there anywhere where, the listeners can follow you, my guy? This is a self-plug right here on socials.
Hey, man, I got to look at it real quick because I don't remember the Instagram handle off the top of my head. That's where I post any like football-related stuff.
We're getting you ready for that NIL kind of.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, but like B Skinner 3753, something like that. That's where I post on my like football stuff, man. And as I get older, I'm sure I'll be able to post a little bit more on there and on my Twitter, which B Skinner 75. So not much different. A little bit of number change, but that's it. And that's where my football stuff's at, man. And hopefully, as I get older, I get to talk about it a little bit more. Develop a little bit of an expertise in this stuff.
We're gonna bring you in to weigh in on power rankings and stuff someday.
Oh yeah, dude, I'd be so happy to do that.
But it's been an absolute pleasure, and Brayden, thank you so much. And
of course, man.
I've been your host for this episode, Cody Stauffer, and peace.